On this week's Tony and Josh show, we found out more truth about the Muslim boy who built a clock, and Josh and I go on a little rant. And mark your calendars, National Podcast Day is September 30th.
Woohoo. Star Trek's cloaking technology is now closer than you think, but it's still not going to get you out of that speeding ticket. This guy was caught doing something in public he wasn't supposed to, and you won't believe what he was doing it with. We'll find out on this episode of The Josh and Tony Show.
Yay!
Warning. The opinions, ideas, views, emotions, and temper tantrums expressed or otherwise conveyed on the Tony and Josh show may not and most likely is not suitable for all audiences and therefore should not be heard by anyone unless supervised by an appropriate nanny state. Enjoy!
Yes, this is episode 89. If you're new to the Tony and Josh show, we're here to inform, entertain, and give you a laugh or two. We've searched the interwebs and found these earth-shaking stories to bring to you tonight.
This guy was caught doing something in public he wasn't supposed to be doing, and you won't believe what he was doing it with. Star Trek's cloaking technology is now a little bit closer than you think, but it's still not going to get you out of that speeding ticket. We'll find out more truth about that Muslim boy who built a clock and took it to school. And guess what? It's National Podcast Day.
But first, we want you guys to give us a call using our Speak Pipe feature on our website at tonyandjosh.com. Tweet us during the show at Tony and Josh Show, and don't forget to include us in your other tweets with the hashtag Tony and Josh.
Yeah, we love to hear from you guys. Love the personal interaction and everything else you guys do with us and for us as well. And speaking of that, if you guys want a story suggestion, you think you have something that might fit with the Tony and Josh Show, please send your story suggestions to info@tonyandjosh.com.
Well, Josh, we got a couple of great voicemails this week. Always great voicemails from Nikki G. Let's hear what Nikki G has to tell us this week.
Hey, this is Nikki G, and I hate to say it, but I just watched the 4th episode of Fear the Walking Dead.
Dum dum dum.
It's getting slightly better, but still not there yet.
Oh, he's just getting used to it.
I wish I could watch something else, but I just can't look away.
Like a train
I
wreck.
don't know what to do. All right, I'll chat you later. You know your one. Bye.
I think that was Wendy playing the piano in the background.
I was gonna say, I thought I heard something in the background, a little old timey piano in the back or something.
That was probably the player piano that Nikki G has installed in his Jeep. So, well, we appreciate the updates on Fear the Walking Dead. I have yet to watch an episode of Fear the Walking Dead. I just don't think it can start quite as good as The Walking Dead did with that confusing writing on the double doors. Because, do you read it across or do you read it down from up to down, then go to the next door and read it up to down? And also, too, nothing says, hello, this is a new show like a shovel to the face that Rick got in the first episode.
Well, I had my fears. I had my worries about this show to begin with.
I did too.
And Nikki G is just kind of affirming that. I mean, if it's taking 4 episodes to kind of get okay, like I gave the first episode 3/4 of a try, and after that I was like, I don't know. I just didn't quite get going. It didn't get my juices flowing enough, and so I don't know. Maybe I'll wait until after it's done. I don't need a prequel.
Yeah.
I don't need a prequel to The Walking Dead. It's not necessary. The show's good enough on its own. It stands on its own, and this is just sort of too many cherries on the top of the sundae.
I don't need another show that takes my eyes onto those commercials so those people can make more damn money. I mean, that's the way I look at it, frankly. And the actors that I see in there are not appealing to me. I won't say that they're appealing to me from the show because I haven't watched it, but just things that I have seen them in, they're not overly appealing. Now there's one lady, and I have not looked her up in an Internet Movie Database yet, but there's one lady that I seem to recognize from something else that I do have a positive opinion about and may have watched just simply to see what she does. Now, with that said, I've been really amazed at some of the acting ability of several people that I've seen in things that were just crap, and then later on they're actually given an opportunity to do something, and they do wonderful. So it just makes me sad for there must be literally thousands of people out there that that don't have these acting opportunities that are very good actors. So it just amazes me how much talent there is with people out there.
Oh no, absolutely. And I mean, AMC is certainly doing a decent job of picking some high caliber actors, especially for The Walking Dead. Whether they did that or not for this,
well, they very well
I think has yet to be seen.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry, we got on a bit of a rant there. Let me get over to the next Nikki G. I think he has some more to say about Fear the Walking Dead.
Hey, this is Nikki G, and watching Fear the Walking Dead is not the worst thing that ever happened to me. The worst thing that's happened to me so far is listening to Josh sing Hall & Oates' Man-Eater. Oh my God. Horrible and entertaining. I'd like to hear. I'm going to listen to it again. Matter of fact, I'm going to make it a ringtone.
Oh no!
Wonder if I could download it on iTunes.
Well,
it's like a train wreck. Just can't get away from it. And about the woman who was hiding the gun in her private parts. Yeah, they could resell the gun, but it'll be a crapshoot.
Oh,
that's the best I can do. All right, gentlemen, I'll chat you later. You have a good one. Bye.
It was close, within an inch of where it really was. So not a bad job there, Nikki G.
Oh boy. Well, guys, if you want to play along like Nikki G does, very easy to do. All you got to do is head over to TonyandJosh.com. You're going to find something there on the right side of the page saying send us a message. It has a little microphone icon there. You click on that. It's just like using a voicemail service, but online. All you need is a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer with a microphone hooked up to it. You guys can leave us a message just like Nikki G does every week.
Yeah, microphones are kind of required for leaving the message and anything, whether it be a telephone or anything else. You know, real quick, Josh, do you know that whenever amateur radio first got going many, many years ago, that amateur radio operators were known to steal the microphones off of payphones because they were using that so they could hook to their home-built transmitters to make contacts around the neighborhood. I don't want to say around the world because it was new. So it's just around the neighborhood. So the phones were being clipped.
You know what's interesting is I remember having to use a payphone.
Yeah, of course.
And now it's almost like it's hard to find one.
Well, they're all over. All you have to do is say, "Sir, can I borrow your cell phone real quick?"
Yeah, right. Here's a quarter.
Oh, don't offer to pay. I mean, you have to ask 3 people before you offer to pay. So yeah, communications is everywhere. And that's interesting because you can communicate with us through reviews and let us know how we're doing here on the show. We've gotten lots of great 5-star reviews. We'd love to get some more reviews, even if they're critical reviews telling us things we need to do. The only thing we're not going to do is get rid of me, Tony, or Josh. Doesn't mean we can't change what we're doing. So we'd really like to hear from you and get some good reviews, some good feedback, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, or Tuned In.
And before we get to the bulk of the show, there's some noteworthy news we like to mention each and every week. We find out this week what the Fox says, and it's not Trump. Volkswagen isn't saying much at all, really, and the government lets all of our fingerprints get stolen. Way to go. Instagram beats Twitter. Everyone's beating the Seahawks. Rose McGowan bears all, and the great Yogi Berra barely makes it to 90 before passing away. The Dalai Lama wants a hot chick to replace him, and something, Pope Francis, something isn't Catholic, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I'm very happy for all you Catholics out there that are, very happy that the Pope is visiting. I don't see the big deal. So, nope. I've never been Catholic. Never. We lived next door to some Catholics when I lived at home with my parents, but that's as close as it got.
Now, before we get to the good stuff, what's all this about an International Podcast Day, Tony?
Yeah. John, Pre-Runner 1982 from our Jeep brethren over there at xjtalk.com sent this to me. And International Podcast Day is September 30th, 2015. And they're, they would really like for you to use the hashtag Podcast Day in your tweets. I bet
they would.
So I guess they're maybe wanting you to talk about this. So they suggest for you to grab your mic and camera and ask somebody, really anyone, about their favorite podcast and share the response on social media using hashtag Podcast Day. I always want to say hash brown. I think that's so funny. So honestly, Josh, it sounds like a great way to advertise podcast. So
Yeah, I think so. It's well, I mean, and as well they should. I mean, the podcast is certainly a growing industry.
yeah, but it just kind of feels cheap.
Well, when you give it an international holiday, yeah, it kind of diminishes it a little bit. I mean, come on, this isn't Christmas. It's podcast day.
Yeah. Well, I think we both share this belief that podcasting is going to be huge in the future as more and more technologies embrace it and build the ability to get your favorite podcast in your cars. And really, I think that it would really be sad to have made it in terrestrial radio, because I think that on demand, whatever you want to listen to, whatever subject you want to listen about, at your fingertips, that you can listen whether you're at work or driving or exercising or whatever, that has a lot of appeal to it. And I think the majority of the people in the U.S. and probably in the world have yet to fully understand what podcasts are and how easy they are to get and listen to. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you understand how to get and listen to them. And there's probably, I would think maybe one of the problems is that there's so many ways that you can get it and consume it. So whether it be on your cell phone or your PC at work, your tablet, I mean, there's just all kinds of ways. It's just basically a recording, a digital recording that you can listen to so many different ways.
Yeah, and the diversity of podcast, and of course the lack of FCC rules really makes the content very entertaining sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, and unfortunately, perhaps I think it was the late Apple. What's his name? Steve, not Wozniak. What's the guy that?
Steve Jobs.
Jobs. Why do they both have the same first name? I think it was the late Apple CEO Steve Jobs that said it's amateur hour. Podcasting is amateur hour, and it certainly is, because you can listen to various levels of audio. Yeah, knuckleheads. Various level of audio content. People that don't prepare for the shows, they just get on there and ramble on and on. Hey, wait a minute.
This kind of hitting a little close to home, if you ask me.
Well, some may say that's part of the charm, though, because I mean, whenever you're out, maybe camping around the fire, or you're at the bar with your buddies, is any of that scripted? Or any of those professionals? I mean, I'm sure the guy with high heels and the wig on may be considered a professional, but I'm talking about just the fun time that you're having talking about stuff and engaging in the conversation.
Well, I was having a fun time until I noticed the Adam's apple.
Yeah, well, just don't swallow. So anyway, International Podcasting Day, and we just wanted to remind you guys about it, and even though I kind of feel cheap talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up and see if this is something that, if this is just one of those little things that people call the International Podcast Day and they're just making the whole damn thing up.
Well, if you do use the hashtag podcast day or whatever you're supposed to do, make sure you just throw in the hashtag Tony and Josh show as well with it.
Oh, yeah. We certainly, we're not too cheap to be involved in it.
Well, this is something that you'd think wouldn't be very cheap at all. But in fact, actually, it's turned out to be the cheapest of all. Cloaking technology is now in reach. Now, when I say cloaking, probably the last thing you think of is cheap. But researchers from the University of California, San Diego, have created a breakthrough invisibility cloak that has caught the attention of the Defense Department. Go figure. And it's not just because someone from the private sector built something cooler than the government ever did, but due to its ability to hide objects from the naked eye. Because if it made a grilled cheese sandwich, it would be a toaster oven, not a cloaking device. That's why it's called cloaking, people. It hides things. Anyways, the UCSD team has been in contact with the Defense Department liaison, although I'm pretty sure it was the other way around, and is preparing to submit a proposal detailing their cloaking technology. The UCSD cloak attracted such significant attention due to its unique design, which allows the invisibility shield to be lighter and cheaper than any other cloaking technology currently under development. That's right, I said other, as in there are multiple research facilities working on Star Trek technology. Awesome. The UCSD professor, UCSD professor and his colleagues created a, quote, dielectric metasurface cloak, which uses an ultra-thin, non-metallic material comprised of a Teflon substrate with embedded ceramic cylinders. Nerds. Both Teflon and ceramic are abundant on Earth, making it very easy and inexpensive to produce. The combination of this very thin material is non-metallic. The very thin material, its non-metallic properties, and its cheap manufacturing costs set the cutting-edge cloak design apart from competing cloaking technologies. Due to the materials used in its design, the UCSD cloak works by manipulating electromagnetic waves such as visible light or radio waves. Because it can scatter these waves, the material is able to resist visual or radar detection, potentially making an object invisible to radar or even the naked eye. Material only operates within a narrow range of wavelengths, though, which means a single piece can only be used for a single purpose, such as hiding from radar. The ability to hide from sight, for example, would require another piece of fabric built with a different thickness. The military is interested in its breakthrough technology because it's basically what the military is looking for. Duh. In a cloaking solution. It's lightweight, it's cheap, and it's easily adaptable to new situations. Perfect for military. Initial plans would call for small-scale uses such as camouflaging unmanned aerial vehicles, while future uses may include larger endeavors like hiding ships, aircraft, and convoy vehicles from enemy radar, which is all fine and dandy. I would like for our military to have all the latest, coolest technology and toys imaginable. The question on everybody's mind, and my mind too, is that when is it going to be available for me to hide from my girlfriend when it's time to do the dishes?
Very true. And I wonder if they have anything that will cloak somebody from a smell, because last time I was waiting down there at the bus stop, there's a few people I would have liked to cloaked.
Oof. Yeah, I wonder if this is going to be able to cloak my browser history.
Well, there's always hope. This is very interesting. Now, also, too, don't forget, I don't know if you were watching any of the Harry Potter movies, but there was a invisibility cloak used in there as well.
Yeah, so this sounds like it's very similar to that in that it's a flexible, manipulable fabric of some kind, and it's what they were saying is less than 3 millimeters, which if you want to do the math, it's roughly just over or just under an eighth of an inch thick.
That's not bad.
So we're talking, roughly about the same thickness as good quality leather, but being able to hide something. Now, it's not this, sheer handkerchief like Harry Potter decided to throw over himself to sneak in and out of places, but this is basically one step beyond that. I would say within 10 or 15 years, we could see this sort of stuff maybe even hitting mainstream ish.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the cost. We had a story about Vanta Black, which was some material that would absorb all light. So between Vanta Black and this invisibility cloak, I can't help but think that the government won't like this too much because there's so much proliferation of cameras to keep an eye on us and facial recognition software so that it can actually track us. Can you imagine if somebody was concerned about, not necessarily nefarious reasons, but they just were concerned about being tracked by their government? These invisibility cloaks, it might be an invisibility mask. So you have a bunch of people walking around that are like headless people.
Yeah, you turn it into a burqa and it's just a pair of eyeballs floating above a neck.
Yeah, it would be great for Halloween.
Yeah, right.
But I could see this quite easily being outlawed.
You imagine somebody making a car cover out of this and then just going and parking their Buick on the middle of the I-5 or something like that, throwing this invisibility cloak over it and boom.
Yeah, it could hurt a lot of people. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to this in the coming years.
Yeah, very very interesting, especially being able to combine something like this with that Vanta Black. We're not even going to see them coming.
No, you won't even see the bullets. Vanta Black bullets. Don't let them see what hit them. But anyway,
now there's something else that people were seeing and really making some knee-jerk reactions about last week. Now, we had this story here on the Tony and Josh show last week about a boy who seemed to be innocently tagged with a title that he didn't deserve. I mean, he was initially thought as just nothing more than an inventor or a kid bringing a science experiment to school. And he was confused for being a bomb maker.
Yeah,
but it turns out
in training, so to speak.
Yeah, it turns out things are not quite what they seemed initially.
Well, pulling back the invisibility cloak and
There you go.
put in the light of day, it may be that this young lad was not as innocent as once suspected. Now, I don't think that this there's no evidence yet that shows that this was any kind of desensitizing or trial run to bring a bomb into a school, but you certainly have to wonder about why this has been done. So if you remember last week, I was kind of upset from a parent perspective that Ahmed Mohammed was briefly arrested for bringing a digital clock to school, something that he had built, something he had fashioned on his own, soldered it together, designed, soldered together, and took in I believe let his science teacher have a look. And then I think Josh even mentioned that it was, he brought it in a briefcase. And the thing that I'd saw was just a circuit board. And I thought, what loon, what noob would think that this was a bomb? It was clearly a circuit board with integrated circuits on it. And like I think I even said last show, no C4 or modeling clay attached to it with these curly wires and cut the red wire. No, the blue. So to me, it just wasn't a bomb. Well, looking at it after the show, I saw the thing about the suitcase, the briefcase that it was in, and now it seems like the whole thing may be a fraud, that he didn't even build the clock. So,
well, if he didn't build it, then who did? Because this kid was really taking a lot of credit. He was standing up for himself and saying, "Well, all I did was this." And
yeah, well, it may have been GE that built it, because it may have just had the innards of a clock, a commercial clock, taken out and stuck in a briefcase. Anyway, the most famous clock in America is a fraud, according to electronics experts, who says the 14-year-old Ahmed Mohammed did not invent anything and simply took a commercial clock out of its manufactured case. In recent days, the story went viral of Mohammed being handcuffed and arrested after his clock was mistaken for a possible bomb. Police defended their actions, and school officials upheld Mohammed's suspension. Critics of those actions against Mohammed was treated unfairly because the bigotry towards Muslims. President Obama even reacted to the story on Twitter. "Cool clock, Ahmed. We want to bring you to the White House. We should inspire more kids like you in science. This is what makes America great," tweeted Obama. Mohammed also received invitations to meet Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, and to go to NASA and MIT. Twitter has offered him an internship. TV host Stephen Colbert and Ellen DeGeneres have called him. So kids, if you want to be famous, take something that's made by somebody else and repackage it. So this isn't a definitive, this is what has happened, but based on electronic experts reviewing the pictures and such, this is what they've come up with. And you have to wonder, Josh, why in the world, if it's just a kid being a kid, wanting attention, so on and so forth, okay, I understand. It's not right. He should be dealt with. He should be punished, not by officials, but by his parents. And but he should be exposed, so he will make sure that he understands and everybody around him understands that you can't behave this way and profit from it. And profit this young lad has. He actually received a bunch of goodies from Microsoft, computer stuff, tablets, just a table full worth of things. I don't know if you saw that picture or not. So there's all these people reaching out to this 14-year-old because he was so mistreated by the Texas police and school system.
Wow. I think mistreated might be going a little bit far. I mean, considering the circumstances and everything that was involved. I mean, look, you bring a little attaché case or briefcase or any little case with a handle on it, and it's got a bunch of electronics in it, and you're of a certain national descent, there's going to be a lot of questions are raised. I'm sorry. There's just no way around racial profiling. Maybe give it another 100 years. I don't know. In any case, whether or not people overreacted, or I think some people probably did the right thing in at least questioning it, being cautious. We want people to be cautious. We don't want people to knee jerk reaction. They see a kid with brown skin carrying a briefcase with some wires out of it, and break out their sidearm and start firing. But nonetheless, questions should be asked.
Well, there's a balance that has to be struck. I mean,
Sure.
I think you mentioned in the pre-show about the Boston Bombers. I mean, if you see a pressure cooker sitting on the side of on a sidewalk next to a building or some people, what's the rationale for a pressure cooker to be sitting on the sidewalk?
Well, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have given a second look. But
you
nowadays,
should. I mean, you need to question these things. And I don't know that this young man needed to be put in handcuffs, but and I don't know that necessarily the police needed to be involved. But we need to ask these questions. We can't just say, "Oh my God, I didn't think that would ever happen to me. I didn't think that would ever happen," because there's people losing limbs. There's people, women and children that have been killed because people aren't asking these questions, and we have to. And if somebody gets their feelings hurt in the process, well, get over it.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here for just a moment and say that I think maybe the police did the right thing in the sense that they sort of made it a public made a public example of this kid. You don't do these sorts of things, and they made it very, very public because they want to nip this kind of behavior in the bud. Now, if there is any truth to the rumors that maybe he was helped out with the building of this in attempts to see what sort of reaction could happen in maybe the hopes of actually getting a real bomb into a school. Oh, come on. That is just, I mean, what would that do to a nation if somebody were to sneak in a suicide bomber into a school? I mean, school shootings aside, which are horrific unto themselves, this would take things to a whole nother level. Now, besides a horrific act of terrorism, it would be a tragic loss of life, but it wouldn't hurt the nation's infrastructure or who we are as a nation. It would suck.
Yeah.
And there would probably be a massive change to life as we know it because of something like that. But that I wouldn't necessarily say that the terrorists would have won at that point.
No, of course not. But the key word there is terrorists. They can't accomplish what they need to accomplish, at least not in strength or force. So they have to do things to make you second guess your safety, to scare you. And this probably will not be a popular thing to say. There'll be people out there that agree with me. You may or may not be one of them, Josh. But the 9/11 attack was a dumb luck. Everything lined up momentarily that allowed 9/11 to happen. And I feel horrible for all the people that were injured, lost loved ones, and of course the people that did die in 9/11. But there were some 40 to 50,000 people in those Twin Towers, and all but a little under close to 4,000 of them got out alive. They were able to leave those burning buildings and continue on with their lives. Now, a few of them jumped to their death. Some of them were killed instantly when the planes hit. Others had to suffer horrendous concern and fear waiting for the final moments. It doesn't make those concerns and the feelings for those individuals any less. But come on, they used our technology against us, and the best they could do was kill 4,000 of us. That is a fraction of the amount of people that are in the United States. So that was the best they could do. Now, I think that we're helping out at least a huge sponsor of terrorism, Iran, with this deal, so that they will have the ability to to kill more of us using nuclear weapons if they choose to. I don't think they have a snowball's chance in hell of doing it. I think that they would be wiped from the planet, depending on the person that's in office, if they detonated one nuke over here, and which I think is horrible, because I think there's a lot of the Iranian public that would like to be free and would like to have a democracy and not be under the type rule that they are. But frankly, you better do something, because it ain't going to be good for either one of us, either one of our countries.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
So the bottom line here is that there's not much a terrorist organization can do to the United States. What we have to hope doesn't happen is we don't see a lot of these lone wolf attacks. And the lone wolf attacks are kind of a diminishing return, because you have to keep getting new people to be lone wolves, because they either die through us killing them or them killing themselves, or they're put in prison. So
yeah, you have to have a certain precedence of success in order to carry that sort of stuff on, keep carrying that sort of stuff on.
Yeah, I mean, it was much like the kamikaze pilots in World War II that Japan would do. It was a stupid idea, because you're going to run out of people, especially when you're such a small country and have so many limited resources. So you do not want to piss off America. I promise you do not want to piss off America, because not only will we decimate you, but we'll continue living in the process.
Well, this guy was certainly living it up, as it were. I labeled this, "You can't do that in public." And I always like to finish off the show with a great story that will make you question your moral boundaries and will definitely lose your faith in humanity little by little. I do my part. I'm here to help. Well, this 45-year-old man has been labeled as a sex offender after being found guilty of having sex in public. But it was his choice of a partner that really got him in trouble.
Oh, God.
Paul Bennett pleaded guilty last week to 2 counts of indecent exposure and disturbing the peace, intent to harm, and vandalism of public property. The plea stemmed from a September 9th incident where he attempted to have sex in a public area. Okay, seems a little messed up, but we've all heard this sort of stuff before. Probably not anywhere else but here, but still, sex in public is nothing new, especially to the Tony and Josh show. Not to say that we go out and do those sort of things, but still. But now, thinking that this was just an ordinary public sex story would prove you have underestimated the depths in which I will dive into the gutter for a good story. So we go on. Witnesses told the court they saw Bennett pull down his pants in a shopping mall and start performing a sexual act on himself in public. What, did this guy have a couple ribs removed or something? Move over America's Got Talent's human regurgitator. This guy's swallowing more than goldfish and pocket change. Now, in all seriousness, prosecuting attorney Katie Beatty said Bennett then walked outside to a large blue mailbox and, quote, started to make sexual advances towards it.
Yeah, baby. Look at you all blue and big with that wide, purty mouth that opens so far. And those curves. I might just have to give that collection sticker a little spank.
This is when things go from innocent mailbox stalking to full-on postal assault. Bennett then dropped his pants once more and started gyrating and vigorously rubbing himself against the mailbox while holding his hands in the air. Look, Ma, no hands. Witnesses said he kept shouting "wow" over and over again during his mailbox masturbation. I'm guessing he must have caught a rivet or two on a skin fold or maybe a pube in a seam or something. Either way, it was enough to bring our male masturbator to climax, because he finished. And he did finish, because the report says there was evidence everywhere. Bennett then pulled up his pants and started swinging on a lamppost, because that's what you do.
Singing in the rain.
Yeah, police were, of course, called. Several times, in fact. And when they arrived, they found Bennett exposing himself yet again in front of another store. Officers said he drunkenly shouted and swore at them. That's when he was tased, zip-tied, and carried into a waiting squad car with officers wearing several layers of rubber gloves, I'm sure. Bennett's attorney, Martin Jones, oh boy, that poor MFer, told the court he realizes his client's behavior left witnesses ashamed, disgusted, and upset. My client accepts that, he, quote, said, clearly there are issues that need to be addressed. You think? The court ordered Bennett to undergo alcohol treatment and pay $75 to the elderly woman who witnessed his mailbox sex session. Boy, what a settlement. Better invest that windfall there, Granny. He will also have to register as a sex offender and likely never be allowed to lick a stamp ever again.
Not that way. Oh my God, the humanities. I just, I think this was probably a Whovian, a drunk Whovian that just mistook that blue mailbox as from the TARDIS.
Oh,
Come
boy.
on, baby. That's it. I'm out of the Doctor Who club. I've been shunned, I'm sure.
Letters in the mail. Cease and desist.
Oh, no, but something sticky on the mail, Josh.
Oh, well, know which mailbox that one came through.
Another pun.
Hey, speaking of mail, guys, we want your story suggestions. We want them now. Send them in to info@tonyandjosh.com. You guys can get a show on the Tony and Josh Show if it just so happens to be sick and twisted enough. We've had a fan of the show, Dusty Dunn, send in a couple stories. He's managed to get himself on our radar. You guys can do the same thing too. Just send an email to info@tonyandjosh.com.
Yeah, radar in a good way. So, always thank you for those stories. And John, pre-owner 1982 from xgtalk.com, thank you for letting us know about International Podcast Day. We certainly appreciate you keeping us up to date with current items that we can use here on the podcast and therefore share with all of you guys. So don't forget to check us out at tonyandjoshshow.com. You can go over to iTunes and listen to our show, Stitcher Radio, and tune in. We love the reviews here. I can't tell you, this makes us vibrate, much like eating sugar rolled in honey. You can contact us through the Twitter at Tony and Josh Show, and always you can use the hashtag Tony and Josh Show on all your tweets. I encourage you to do it on all your tweets, whether they have anything to do with Sick and Twisted at all.
Indeed. And if we have offended your moral boundaries and made you question your faith in humanity, then I highly suggest that you tell a friend. Do so right now. Spread the word across social media and let everybody in your friends list know that you are listening to the Tony and Josh Show. And then watch the unsubscribes roll in.
Yeah. I just happen to think I know there's an Alcohol Anonymous, and I think there's a Sex Addicts Anonymous. I don't know if it's anonymous or not, but the Sex Addicts meeting. And I was just thinking this would be a great thing. The Tony and Josh Show would be a great thing to share in your sex addiction meetings.
Boy, if you've got a sex addiction meeting story, I want to hear about it. Please, info@tonyandjosh.com.
We know you have a problem, and we would like to celebrate it. I mean, talk about it. Help you deal with it in public, so to speak. So as a public service, we'll reach out. Well, maybe not reach out, but talk about it. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, maybe reach out, but definitely not reach around.
You guys have a great week.